Imagine being able to lower your VA loan payment without a lengthy approval process. Well, this is what the VA Streamline Refinance is all about. And in this video, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about so that you don't find yourself getting taken advantage of by the wrong lending team. So what is the VA Streamline Refinance? This is another name for the VA IRRRL, which stands for Interest Rate Reduction Refinance Loan. The IRRRL is essentially a loan that was created for veterans and active service members to be able to lower the interest rate and monthly payment on an existing VA loan. It also is available to veterans who maybe are in an adjustable rate mortgage and they want to be able to refinance into a fixed rate mortgage. One of my favorite perks of the VA Streamline Refinance is how simple it is to get. You see, the Streamline Refinance is much smoother than going through just a normal loan approval when you are buying a house. You see, during the home buying phase, you probably had to fork over things like income verification, asset verification, tax returns, and appraisal, and among other things. And this is all very, very normal across all different loans, not just VA loans. But one thing that makes the VA Streamline Refinance even cooler than just doing a regular VA loan is definitely going to be the process that is taken in order for you to get that loan approved. You see, when you're doing this, they do not require any appraisal to be done. They don't require any income verification. They don't require any asset verification. And overall, all of the documentation that's needed is much limited. Like really all they're looking for is looking at your mortgage statement, a copy of your note, and a couple of other minor details that go along with getting this loan. Another cool thing about the Streamline Refinance is what you can do with your closing costs. You see, when you are buying a house and you have closing costs, those are being required to be paid at closing. Now, maybe you got a credit to cover those closing costs, but what you weren't able to do is roll those closing costs into the loan unless it was done in a little bit more of a creative way. Well, when it comes to the Streamline Refinance, it's really simple on how you can cover your closing costs. You have the option to either A, pay them at closing like you maybe did or heard you could do when you purchased a house, but the other option you have on a Streamline Refinance is you can simply roll those closing costs into the loan and not have to bring any money to the table whatsoever. This is by far one of the coolest things that can be done because it allows veterans to get into a lower rate and monthly payment without having to feel the need to fork over their liquid funds or savings in order for them to save money on their monthly payment. Some of the things that are going to be required in order for you to get a Streamline Refinance is one, making sure that you've been making your mortgage payments on time. The next one is going to be making sure that your interest rate that you are going to get is at least a 0.5% lower than the current rate that you have. So for example, if your current rate is 7%, you need to make sure that the rate that you're being quoted and going to receive is at least 6.5% or lower. Now, ideally, I do like to see the rate to drop more than 0.5%, but that technically is the VA's guideline there. The next thing the VA is going to be looking for is making sure that your loan has seasoned long enough. For example, when you buy your property, in order for it to have been seasoned long enough, they want to make sure that you have at least 210 days having gone by from your first payment due date, which is essentially about 8 months. If you bought your property more than 8 months ago, even over a year ago, then you don't really have to worry about that because you've already satisfied the seasoning requirement. Another cool thing about the Streamline Refinance is you actually don't even have to be occupying the property currently. The Streamline Refinance can be done on a property that is actually now a rental, even if it is a VA loan, and you don't have to go back and occupy the property anymore. Now, if it is a rental, the VA does require for it to have been a primary residence at some point in the past. But as long as it was a primary residence before and it is now a rental, then you're going to be okay. Some of the things the VA is going to be looking for is making sure that you're able to recuperate any costs that are associated with the loan within 36 months. You see, if you heard me earlier, I mentioned that you were going to be able to roll those closing costs into the loan, which in my opinion is a great perk. But the VA is doing everything they can here with this particular rule to protect your best interest. You see, what they don't want is that a lender is just doing refinances, having you roll in those closing costs to your loan, and then inflating your loan amount, thus eating into more and more of your equity. Sure, your monthly payment may be going down and your rate may be going down, but they want to make sure that you're able to recuperate whatever costs were associated with that loan within a certain amount of time through the amount of money that you're saving each month. If you're looking at starting the VA Streamline Refinance process, what you don't want to do is jump on Google and start searching for VA Streamline Refinance or VA IRRRL. This is only going to lead you down a rabbit hole to the first company that paid the most amount of money to show up on Google. These are for-profit companies that have a focus of doing as many loans as they can and not helping as many veterans as they can. Even if they have the name veteran in their company, it does not make them the best VA lender out there. What you want to do is work with a team of individuals that is going to give you a detailed breakdown of your situation that's not just going to tell you about the rate they can get you, but they're going to tell you about what that rate will look like for your situation in the long run. There may be a better opportunity for you later down the road that may make more sense, and you want to work with somebody that's going to be honest. Now, I would be honored if you want to work with my team. I have a team of individuals that work directly with me that help veterans go through the VA loan process, and this is all we do. Not all things are sunshine and rainbows, so let's talk about some of the cons to doing a VA Streamline refinance. I would say the biggest con is going to be you cannot pull out equity when doing this, which means that if your intention is cashing out some of the equity that you have in your property because it's available, you cannot do that with a Streamline refinance. There's a whole separate loan option available for that, which I'll cover in another video. But the next one is going to be the closing costs. As I mentioned earlier, closing costs can be rolled in to a Streamline refinance, and some people do look at this as a con. Now, what I will say though is rolling in your closing costs is not required. If you have the liquid funds and you want to actually pay them, then you can do that. You are not required to roll it in. But if you don't have the liquid funds and you still want to do a Streamline refinance, you can roll it in, which then would make this one more of a pro in a way. And then the last one is you still must meet the VA's requirements in order to do it, as I mentioned earlier in the video. Another potential con to the VA Streamline refinance is the possibility of needing to pay what's called the VA funding fee. Now, some of you may be exempt from the funding fee. For example, if you're collecting VA disability of a 10% rating or more, then this doesn't apply to you. But for those of you who aren't exempt from the VA funding fee, you're going to have to pay the funding fee possibly again when doing the Streamline refinance. Now, before you go and thinking that this is a terrible idea, let me tell you, the Streamline refinance funding fee is significantly lower than the funding fee when you're doing a VA purchase. When you're doing a VA purchase, your funding fee can be anywhere between really about 1.25% to up to 3.3%. But when you're doing a VA Streamline refinance, the funding fee is only 0.5%. So as I mentioned, it is significantly less on a Streamline refinance. So what are the benefits to the VA Streamline refinance? Well, the first one is definitely going to be lowering your interest rate, which causes you to obviously lower your monthly payment. The next one is going to be the potential savings over the life of your new loan because you're going to have a lower rate than you currently may have. And then the last one is definitely going to be the qualification process. As I mentioned earlier, it is much easier to get approved for a VA Streamline refinance than other loan refinances. Now, no matter who you've chosen to work with, the next thing you're going to want to do is work on applying, getting your application submitted, and you want to provide a couple of key documents. The first one is going to be your most recent mortgage statement, and the next one is going to be a copy of your promissory note. The next thing that's going to happen here is the team is going to do a full loan review to see what makes sense for your situation. They're going to look at what you currently have versus what is currently available to see what is the best route for you to go. The next thing that will happen is the team is going to work on moving your loan into the approval phase and then hopefully into the closing phase. The last thing I'll leave you with, Jesus loves you and he paid the ultimate price for your life. So if you turn to him, trust in him, and believe in him, he has a beautiful plan and purpose for you and your family.